Welcome to ChronoSphere Academy. If the Roman Empire bequeathed to us the indispensable frameworks of law and engineering that underpin Western civilization, and the Mongol Empire carved its legacy into the annals of history with a terrifying, unparalleled swiftness of conquest, the next great story is a saga of magnificent, almost impossible endurance. This entity was more than a mere empire. It was a vast, sprawling civilization that drew breath for over 6 centuries, meticulously shaping the destiny of the entire Middle East, North Africa, and much of Southeast Europe. Its beginnings were astonishingly humble. A solitary, struggling nomadic tribe on the tumultuous Anatolian frontier. Its conclusion, devastatingly ignominious, earning it the heartbreaking epithet, the sick man of Europe. Yet, in the dazzling glare of its zenith, its very name was a byword for unfathomable power, astonishing opulence, and a terror that gripped the heart of the continent. How, precisely, did a modest Turkic chieftain, Osman I, manage to sow the initial, fragile seed for a monumental force that would ultimately extinguish the luminous 1,000-year flame of the Byzantine Empire and, on more than one occasion, lay siege to the very heart of Christian Europe, Vienna itself? This is the epic, complex, and enduring narrative of the rise and fall of the Ottoman Empire. The genesis and the grandeur, the first whisper of destiny. In the waning decades of the 13th century, the Anatolian plateau was a politically fragmented and geographically violent tapestry, land of dying Seljuk principalities and the exhausted, shrinking remnants of the Byzantine state. It was on this western borderland, this crucible of conflict, that a resourceful chieftain named Osman Ghazi, hailing from the Kai tribe, recognized a profound opportunity amidst the decay. Unlike previous movements fueled purely by religious fervor, Osman's early motivation was a pragmatic, almost primal drive, plunder and territorial expansion at the expense of his weakened Byzantine neighbors. Under his shrewd leadership, his small beylik rapidly began its inexorable expansion, securing the first great milestone when his son, Orhan, captured the coveted Byzantine city of Bursa in 1326, an act that instantly conferred legitimacy and a true capital. The Ottomans then dared to cross the Dardanelles, seizing Gallipoli in 1354, establishing a vital European beachhead. This nascent state rapidly professionalized its military, creating the fearsome, disciplined infantry corps known as the Janissaries, an elite force sworn to the Sultan himself, who would become the cutting edge of the Ottoman sword. Asterisk, the Conqueror and the Golden Peak asterisk. The pivotal moment in world history arrived with Sultan Mehmed II, a brilliant mind often referred to as the Conqueror, obsessed with extinguishing the lingering flame of Rome. He engineered a logistical and military miracle. In 1453, deploying gargantuan cannons and an army of formidable size, Mehmed relentlessly battered the supposedly impregnable Theodosian walls. When Constantinople finally fell, it was more than a military victory. It was a profound historical cataclysm, marking the final, definitive end of the millennium-old Byzantine Empire and sending tremors of fear and awe across the entire European continent. Mehmed immediately rechristened the city Istanbul, declaring it the glorious, permanent capital of a world empire. That the Ottoman story reached its dazzling, breathtaking climax under Suleiman I, whose 46-year reign is known as the Golden Age. To the awe-struck Europeans, he was Suleiman the Magnificent, a monarch of unmatched wealth and cultural patronage. Yet, to his vast, diverse subjects, he was Al-Kanuni, the lawgiver, revered for synthesizing a clear, unified, and remarkably tolerant legal system that brought order to the sprawling realm. Militarily, his forces were an elemental force. He captured Belgrade in 1521, utterly crushed Hungarian power at the decisive Battle of Mohacs in 1526, and led his army to the very gates of Vienna. On the seas, his legendary admiral, Barbarossa, ensured Ottoman naval dominance, transforming the Mediterranean into, quite literally, an Ottoman lake. This era saw unprecedented cultural blossoming, led by the architectural genius of Mimar Sinan, whose magisterial Suleimani Mosque in Istanbul remains an eternal monument to the empire's power and artistic zenith. The descent and dissolution asterisk, the first cracks in the facade, the grand narrative of expansion, inevitably gave way to the painful reality of stagnation. With Suleiman's death in 1566, the seeds of structural weakness began to germinate. A key flaw emerged in the system of succession. Princes, once seasoned in provincial governance, were increasingly confined to the caves, the cage within the palace, producing a succession of inexperienced, often incompetent sultans. This vacuum of effective leadership inevitably allowed corruption, intrigue, and self-serving court factions to flourish at the expense of the state. Simultaneously, the outside world was accelerating. European powers, benefiting from the age of exploration, bypassed Ottoman trade monopolies, while the influx of New World silver caused crippling inflation that destabilized the imperial economy. Militarily, the empire began to lose its technological edge. The disastrous final failure to take Vienna in 1683 was not merely a defeat. It was a profound psychological and strategic turning point, signaling the irreversible end of Ottoman offensive capability and forcing the mighty empire into a humiliating, protracted defensive posture. The sick man of Europe. Throughout the 18th and 19th centuries, the Ottoman state experienced a slow, agonizing disintegration, earning the cruel, indelible label, the sick man of Europe. Massive territorial losses were incurred through relentless external pressures, primarily from the burgeoning Russian Empire during the devastating Russo-Turkish Wars. Internally, the revolutionary concept of nationalism took root among the empire's diverse subject peoples. One by one, territories declared their independence. Greece in 1830, followed by Serbia, Bulgaria, and others, effectively purging the Ottomans from most of their European holdings. In a desperate, last-ditch effort to achieve salvation, the Sultans instituted the sweeping Tanzimat reforms, attempting to modernize the military, bureaucracy, and legal codes along European lines. Yet these efforts proved too little, too late. Heavily reliant on foreign loans, the empire's financial house of cards collapsed with the ignominious default of 1875, placing its economy under the effective control of its European rivals. A final flicker of constitutional hope, spurred by the reformist Young Turks, was tragically extinguished by the crippling military defeats of the Balkan Wars, 1912-1913. The final curtain in 1914. The Ottoman leadership, gripped by a final act of desperation, threw their fate into the ultimate geopolitical wager. They entered World War I, allied with the Central Powers. The war proved fatal. Despite pockets of heroic resistance, the Ottoman armies were routed across multiple fronts, while the Arab revolt, backed by the British, tore away the crucial southern provinces. The defeat of the Central Powers in 1918 irrevocably sealed the empire's doom. The Allies swiftly occupied key strategic areas, and post-war treaties ruthlessly carved up the remaining Middle Eastern territories into mandates controlled by Britain and France. Yet from the ashes of defeat rose a fierce, unyielding Turkish nationalist fervor, masterfully harnessed by the General Mustafa Kemal. This movement drove out the foreign occupiers, overthrew the ancient, discredited regime, and on November 1st, 1922, formally abolished the Sultanate. The final chapter closed on October 29th, 1923, with the official proclamation of the modern, secular Republic of Turkey, ending the magnificent, turbulent, and 6-century-long epic of the Ottoman Empire. The legacy of the Ottoman Empire is not simple. It is a profound and complex tapestry woven with threads of unprecedented longevity, architectural brilliance, legal sophistication, and continuous, bloody conflict. Its final, violent fragmentation created not only a new nation-state, but fundamentally redrew the geopolitical map of the Middle East and the Balkans, consequences that continue to shape the world's most volatile regions even today. From a modest band of frontier warriors to a global superpower spanning 3 continents, the Ottoman narrative stands as the most eloquent, haunting testament to the universal, inevitable cycle that governs all great civilizations: the genesis, the glory, and the grave. If you found this sweeping historical epic compelling, ensure you like, share, and subscribe to ChronoSphere Academy and activate notifications so you do not miss our next essential journey. As we delve into the ideological chasm that cleaved the modern world in two, the genesis of the Cold War,